This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, and our Moonlighter for today is the voice of the UNI Panthers, Gary Rima. Now, Gary recently announced that this football season and the upcoming men's basketball season were going to be the last seasons that Gary was going to be the voice of the Panthers after almost 30 years on the microphones. And if you've been following Iowa sports for very long, you know Gary's voice as soon as you come across it on the radio or as soon as you hear it on TV, because he has such a distinctive call, distinctive voice. He is well known for calls like, "Oh, baby, I love this team," and kaboom, another three-pointer by the Panthers. Gary even called a lot of baseball games back when you and I had the baseball program. And so I remember Gary being on the bus rides with us, with the baseball team on a lot of those road trips up to Minneapolis or Wichita State or wherever we were on the road. Gary would be there along for the ride. And you always got the feeling that Gary was one of the guys. That's what I liked, having Gary around. He was really good friends with Rick Heller, our coach, and you could tell he had been around baseball and sports a lot. And he wasn't just some like dorky radio guy on the bus. This guy knew sports and he loved being around the team. So it was really fun to connect with Gary for this episode to go back through some of his career, also to talk about UNI baseball, also to talk about his love and passion for sports, some of his best calls over the past 30 years as the voice of the Panthers. And I think you guys are really going to love this episode. So without further ado, here it is, our episode with Moonlighter Gary Rima. All right, Gary Rima joining the Moonlight Graham Show. Gary, you've been the voice of the UNI Panthers for close to 30 years now. Coming up on your retirement, though, what made you decide to turn in the microphone?
Well, Tim, I can tell you that 3 years ago, I never would have thought I would step away at the end of this season. I just, I thought I would probably do it longer, but there's just a number of things have happened. And really, I think the whole COVID-19 thing maybe had something to do with it, just realizing that, we're not going to be around forever. And just kind of starting to look at some other things that I want to make sure I do in my lifetime. And I'm not getting any younger. Also, my wife retired from being a 35-year teacher, and she did that a year ago. And we talked about that when she retired, that we would look to relocate in Florida. We have spent pretty much every summer, the last 10 or 11 summers, we've spent some time in the villages in Florida, really awesome 55 and older retirement community. And when she retired from teaching a year ago, last year we spent 16 weeks in the villages, and with the whole COVID-19 deal and football getting moved to the spring, and we just said, you know what, next summer we're gonna relocate, and we did. We came down here in June. We bought a house in the villages and closed on that in late July, and during that time I was negotiating with UNI because my contract was up, and Learfield will only do 1-year deals with their broadcasters now. And we got it worked out to do it this one last season. But I pretty well knew when I agreed to the 1-year deal that this was going to be it for me. And so we're just enjoying this final run with UNI football and looking to have a great UNI basketball season. And then I'm going to call it a career. I've been doing this since I was 19 years old, Tim. It's like almost my 48th year of every fall and winter broadcasting on the radio, whether it was high school or college football, basketball, whatever. So it feels kind of nice to go out on my own, kind of on my terms or whatever. And just going to enjoy this last year.
So how much of a factor was it that down in the villages, there's a baseball team that you can play on? Did that factor into your decision?
You know what? It really did. And I'm glad you brought that up. When I've come down here the last 4 or 5 summers, I've practiced with the baseball guys down here, and I'm not talking softball. I'm talking real baseball.
Oh yeah.
60-foot 6-inch pitching, 90-foot bases, full size diamond, wood bats, and what really helped me when I was down here last summer. One of the guys on the team runs a 60 and over and 65 and older team that plays in the Roy Hobbs World Series tournaments in Fort Myers. And he said, Rima, you got to come to Fort Myers in November and play for us on our World Series team. And I said, well, football got moved to the spring, and if basketball does get backed up like they say it's going to, it might work. And then basketball got moved to a November 25th start, and the 60 and over World Series tournament was around November 5th to the 12th, and then right after that, the next week was the 65 and older World Series tournament, and that went from about the 12th or 13th to the 19th. And I said, hey, you know what? I could play for your team if you still want me. And he says, yeah, we need you there. So I spent 2 weeks in Fort Myers last November, played about a dozen, maybe 14 baseball games in 2 weeks. And we played at the spring training facilities of the Boston Red Sox and the old Kansas City Royals spring training facility at Terry Park. And I enjoyed it so much. It just was so fun to play again, and to play at that level, with the competition, teams from all over the United States. And I told my wife when I got done playing in those tournaments, I said, it will be a lot easier for me to retire now, knowing that I can do this for hopefully a number of years. That's going to really give me something to do. And we play in a Sunday league. This team plays in a Sunday league in the Tampa, Clearwater area all fall, and then it starts up again kind of late winter, spring. So next year, once I'm done with doing UNI basketball, I'll be able to do that now next year too. So that certainly had a hand in it, just because I want to be active. I want to be busy. I don't want to be just sitting around, twiddling my thumbs. And in the villages, there's tons of golf, and we love to play pickleball. I do play in some of the Division I softball competition down here also a couple times a week. So that all certainly did factor in that all the activities and things I can do once I do fully retire. So, and I'm really looking forward to that and kind of that new chapter in my life.
So on the baseball side of it, I know you're a baseball guy. Like the name Rima in the state of Iowa, there's a lot of good baseball that follows that name through the years. And I was looking at an old picture of you on Twitter today, and I saw it's from your early days at Upper Iowa, coaching with Rick Heller over there. And Heller still had the mustache at the time. And what were you coaching at? Were you a pitching coach, or what were you handling for them?
No, I was working with outfielders and base running, and then I was his first base coach. That's kind of a cool story. I ran a semi-pro baseball team for 13 summers out of Strawberry Point, Iowa, called the Strawberry Point Cubs, and my 4 brothers played on that team, and I was the head coach and player coach, and I organized the schedule and got the diamond ready, and just really kind of did everything from that standpoint. But that was a lot of fun. And Rick Heller, the 5 years that he was at Upper Iowa University as a player, he played on my Strawberry Point Cubs semi-pro team every summer. So did Marty McCowan, the longtime basketball coach at Wapsie Valley. Just a couple of great Upper Iowa guys. But it was kind of like back before summer collegiate baseball got big. That's kind of what I ran out of Strawberry Point. I had my brothers were in college, and I got a lot of area college guys to play on our team. And then some of us guys that were a little older and not in college also played, but it was really a lot of fun. And then Rick Heller, after he graduated, he spent 1 year coaching high school in Missouri, and then he got the head baseball job at Upper Iowa. I'll never forget it. I'm living in Owine, and it was right around July 4th, and there was a knock at my door in Owine, and it was Rick Heller. And he goes, Rima, you're not going to believe this, but I just got the head baseball job at Upper Iowa, and I need you to come be my assistant coach. And I'm like, what? He goes, listen, I played on your semi-pro team for 5 years that you ran. You would be a great assistant coach for me. He says, you don't have to go out and recruit. I had a family at the time, Tim. I got a full-time job. And I go, how am I going to do that? And he just said, well, you don't have to go do a bunch of recruiting. You don't have, he said, I need you during the season, coach the outfielders. You can help with the hitting, you do the help with the base running, coach first base. But he said, I don't have a big budget, but he said, it's going to be just you and me, and I got to rebuild this program. And I said, all right, I'll join you. So I stayed with him for 3 seasons. He brought in Coach Danker, our third year. I think he brought in Coach Danker to be the pitching coach. And that was a really good addition. And Rick really turned that program around. So, yeah, that was a great time. That was a lot of fun. And to work with Rick and be on that staff and just get a taste of coaching at the collegiate level. That was a lot of fun.
Well, and I know he gives you a lot of credit for bringing him to UNI too.
You know what? Rick Hartzell was the athletic director at the time. And, Rick asked me if I would be on the committee to bring in a new baseball coach. My son Todd played there and was an assistant coach there under Coach Schrag. And Rick and I love Rick Hartzell. Rick Hartzell did so many great things at the University of Northern Iowa. And one of them was that he brought Rick Heller to be the head baseball coach there. And Rick Hartzell had asked me to be on the 10, 11 person committee to help find a new baseball coach. And I remember at the first meeting, there must have been 100 applications of people that wanted the job, and people started, putting names up there, here, I would suggest this guy. And another one said, I'll suggest this guy. And somebody said, well, I think we should look at Joel Holst. He's doing a great job at Wartburg. And I said, listen, guys, we have got to talk to Rick Heller. Rick Heller he's an Iowa kid born and raised. I've watched him close up firsthand what he's done at Upper Iowa baseball. Rick Heller is a great baseball guy, and I think we got to put him on the board, and I really think he should be one of the candidates that we interview. And so they put him up on the board, and he made it to the final 5-person cut. And then I knew if Rick got into the interview room with the committee, he'd blow him away, and he did. I mean, he did a fabulous job, and the rest is history. Got the job, took UNI to the 2001 NCAA baseball tournament, and then of course the program got dropped, and then he goes to Indiana State, takes them to the NCAA, and now what he's doing with Iowa baseball. I mean, it's really pretty cool. But yeah, Rick and I have been friends a long time, and I followed his career as a player and coach, and just really impressed with what he's done.
Yeah, you and me both. I love Rick Heller. Playing under him for a couple of years during the last few years of the UNI program was a treat. And, I'd take a bullet for that guy. But going back to your being the voice of the Panthers, a lot of the baseball guys, when I was at UNI, we didn't have a lot of the exposure that, college baseball does even today, 10 years later. But they always talked about the game that we played down at Nebraska when Nebraska was ranked number 1. And I think you were on the call that day when UNI beat number 1 Nebraska. It was a midweek game. But where does that call, knowing you're a baseball guy, where does that call UNI baseball with Rick Heller at the helm, beating number 1 Nebraska? Where's that one rank for you?
That's top 5. And a lot of people don't remember that UNI baseball did that. And I always have to kind of remind them of that. But that was one of the top 5 moments for me. I called the NCAA tournament games. Tony DeCecco joined me. UNI was not doing baseball on the radio at the time. And when the Panthers won at the Missouri Valley Conference tournament and then went to the NCAA tournament, actually played it in Lincoln and won their first round game there. They won 1 and lost 2. Tony D joined me on the broadcast. We were able to get that on the radio. That was a highlight too, because it was so hard for UNI baseball to to get to the NCAA tournament. They played, in with Wichita State and Missouri State and those teams in the Valley. I mean, incredibly tough to qualify to get into that field. So that was also a great moment. But to go to Nebraska, win at their place, it just was a great, great moment, great time for UNI Panther baseball. And I think after that, we had to bust to Wichita State, if I remember. I thought that was part of that road trip that we were on, but that was a great moment for me. And, it makes, when I think back at Tim of those highlights and the things that UNI baseball did, and they always talk about University of Northern Iowa doing more with less. The baseball program was the leader in that. I mean, they weren't fully funded. They didn't get the 11.7 scholarships, but whether it was Dave Schrag or Rick Heller, they were getting quality kids in there, played competitive baseball. And it's for me personally why, it hurt me. And I think the Rima family, as much as it did when the baseball program got dropped after the 2009 season, because I saw it compete. I saw the former Iowa high school players that did such a great job representing the program. And you knew that they were going up against teams that were fully funded and had everything to advantage in the world for them to be better, and for the Panthers to go and do some of the things that they did, including that win at Nebraska. I mean, man, those are just great, great memories for me.
So you were famous, still are, for some of your calls, right? The "Oh Baby," the "I love this team," the kaboom. The kaboom is my personal favorite. On bus trips, we'd always play the board game Sequence in the back of the bus. And whenever we got a sequence, we would do the Gary Rima kaboom. And so where did you develop like those taglines, right? Those catchphrases, if you will? Was that always something that you would do, or did you develop that when you became the voice of the Panthers?
You know what? The old baby, I've always been my own toughest critic. I still tape all of my games to this day. And when I'm working on the next game broadcast, I'll put the tape in and listen, and just to see if I'm saying something that, man, I don't like that, or, that's good. Use that more. And actually the old baby part of it, that happened way back when my oldest son, Todd, was the quarterback at Owine Husky football. And I'm broadcasting those games on the radio, and he threw a touchdown pass late in the game, and we could never beat Waverly Shellrock, by the way. And finally, I think we got him, and Todd threw a touchdown pass, and just off the cuff, I just said, "Oh baby, touchdown Huskies," and I'm listening back to the tape later that next day, and I didn't even realize I said it, and I said it, and I'm like, you know what, I kind of like that. Everybody had a catchphrase, whether it was Harry Carey and his "Holy Cow," or Bob Hogue and his "Oh my." When I said "Oh baby," I thought, you know what, I'm going to use that on exciting plays. So I carried that over into my UNI broadcast, and I remember the NBA phrase that they had for a while that said, "I love this game." And I remember one game, UNI basketball played great, and during the game I said, "Oh baby, I love this game," and that kind of morphed into, "Oh baby, I love this team." And then we had a guy by the name of Kajo Aheligba, and when you looked at his name, it looked like Quadzo, but he said, "No, it's Kajo." So I remember when Kajo hit a big shot one time, I said, "Kajo with the bucket, kabang," and that turned into kabullseye. The next thing I knew, I was saying kaboom when he hit a three. And I was listening back to one of those tapes, and I'm like, hey, I kind of like that kaboom and kabullseye thing. So I've just, anytime anybody's made a three since that point on, it was either kaboom or kabullseye, or, you know what, it might be kaboom, kabullseye back to back. So I just, I've stuck with it, and it's been kind of cool that, fans have picked up on it, and I've seen signs at games that say kaboom, and I saw one guy's UNI license plate says kabullseye, and another guy has "Oh baby." So I mean, it's just interesting how fans pick up on different things, and you always kind of wonder. I've always wondered. I hope they don't think that that's too corny, but I love it. I love it when AJ Green hits a big three, and it's three by Green, kaboom, and everybody knows that thing went in. So it's been a lot of fun to develop some of that stuff over the years. And when it sticks and it works, I've just stayed with it.
The kaboom is my personal favorite. I was there at UNI when, Kajo was playing. And so I was all in on the kaboom from the very beginning. But you've talked about a couple of your favorite calls, right? That Nebraska baseball game, but obviously, the Farouk Manesh shot, the Paul Jesperson shot. What is your top one or two best calls or best moments that you've had calling UNI sports?
Well, I tell you, I thought in 2005, when Eric Sanders led UNI football to the national championship game in FCS football, I thought this is going to be the highlight of my career. We're in an NCAA Division I national championship game, and Tim, how the team did that? It's still, I still think back at that run. We were 4-3, 7 games into the season, and had just suffered our third loss of the year at Illinois State, 38-3, and it put us at 4-3. And I remember jumping in the car. I was riding with my color commentator, Scott Peterson, and our spotter, Dana Cook. We had drove up together, and we get to the vehicle just right by the stadium, and we were down. We wanted to win that game in the worst way to get to 5-2 because we knew the tough schedule we had coming up. And we get in the car, and Petey looks at me and he says, "Rhymes, we're just not very good." And I just kind of shook my head and I said, well, there's games left, but you know what we had left in 2005 was we had to play number 11 Youngstown State. We had to go to number 6 Western Kentucky. We had to host number 4 Southern Illinois. We were going to have to run the table on those teams to finally get to the regular season finale against Northern Arizona. And we did. We won all 4 of those games to get to 8-3, got into the playoffs. We beat 15th ranked Eastern Washington by 3. We go out to number 1 New Hampshire. We beat them 24-21. We go to number 4 Texas State. We beat them in overtime. And the excitement is just incredible. I mean, the people calling, wanting to talk UNI Panther football. How's this team doing it? How's this Sanders kid, the walk-on from Owine? How's he leading you guys to all these big games? Then we go to the title game. We lose a heartbreaker to Appy State, 21-16. But, Tim, I'm thinking this is incredible. This is as exciting as it can get. And then UNI basketball in 2010 beats UNLV in the first round at Oklahoma City. Ali Farouk Manesh, interviewing him years later, he said he was actually more proud of the 3 he hit against UNLV because that was basically a game winner. There was like 0.7 of a second left when he made that 3, but that was a heroic play by Ali. And then the win over Kansas, number 1 ranked, overall number 1 seed, prohibitive favorite to win it. And when we beat them, the coverage of UNI Panther basketball just went through the roof. And when I think about all the excitement and people wanting to talk UNI football in 2005, take that times 100 of the people that wanted to talk about UNI basketball. How did this little school from Cedar Falls, Iowa, take down the giant? How did David beat Goliath? It was just amazing. I remember I drove to Oklahoma City, and my wife went with me on that trip. So we drove down to Oklahoma City for the NCAA tournament. And on my drive back, I must have did 10 or 11 interviews driving back from national radio stations, newspapers. And I know Ben Jacobson was getting a similar amount of calls, and that continued right up until our game against Michigan State in the Sweet 16. And I think I counted that I did between 40 and 45 interviews, either for radio, TV, or a newspaper about that win. I know Coach Jacobson had equal that number or more people that wanted to call it him. In fact, Colin McDonough, our media relations guy, he said, Rima, Coach Jacobson is getting so many requests that people want to talk to him. I'm sending some of those to you. He can't handle them all. He's got to get the team ready for Michigan State. And I said, I'll talk about the team all day. But that moment, that what happened right there against Kansas was just one of the most incredible sporting event results I've ever seen, been part of, had a chance to broadcast. Because Tim, nobody other than the UNI players and coaches gave us any chance at all. I'm not, Panther Nation thought, maybe could we possibly shock the world, but I think a lot of people thought, it's just great. We're in the second round, man. We got to win finally in the opening round. I'm just not sure a lot of people really believed that we were going to find a way to beat the number one team in the country. And as that game wore on, you could just sense that something magical was happening here, and we were all part of it. And to witness it and see that team pull it out was just incredible. I remember after the game, and we got off the air, and Doug Elgin, the commissioner of the Missouri Valley Conference, comes up to me and he says, "Rima, I cannot wait to hear what you said at the end of the game. I need to hear that." I said, "Well, we just played the highlight of the end of the game. Do you want to hear it?" He goes, I need to hear it. I want to hear it right now. So I pull out my recorder and I put in the last 30 seconds of the game, and, down goes Kansas and the whole bit. And the commissioner of the Missouri Valley Conference says, "Gary, you have to send that to me. I want that to be my ringtone for the next year. When somebody calls me, that's going to play. Down goes Kansas. Down goes Kansas." So, I mean, it was just such an amazing time. And to just have a small part of it, get a chance to broadcast that. It's been amazing. I still have people to this day say, I know exactly where I was at listening to that game when you and I beat Kansas. It's just one of those events that happens in your lifetime that you just remember. And then in 2016, we go to the NCAA tournament. We're back in Oklahoma City, and we're playing Texas. Shaka Smart, that bunch, and Paul Jesperson banks in that half-court shot to win it, to get to the second round. And another just hugely magical moment. And what some people forget is we had a similar moment at the end of the championship game of the Missouri Valley Conference tournament when Wes Washburn hit that shot at the buzzer to beat Evansville to get us to the NCAA tournament. I mean, and Tim, when you look back at the great things that team did that year, remember early in the year, that basketball team with Jesperson and Washburn and Matt Bohannon and Wyatt Lohaus, those guys took down number one North Carolina at home in the McLeod Center. And then in December, they beat fifth-ranked Iowa State. And then in February, they beat Wichita State 53-50 to end the Shockers' 43-game home winning streak, a team that had Fred VanVleet and Ron Baker, a couple of NBA guys. And then the heroics of Wes Washburn to get us the MVC postseason tournament title and punched our ticket to the dance. And then Jesperson hits the half-court shot to get us to the second round. I mean, that whole season was just magical. It just incredible win after win, highlighted, by Jesperson's half-court shot. And then it ended on one of the lowest of lows when we had that 13, 14-point lead with just over a half a minute to go in regulation against Texas A&M, and they came back and tied it. We nearly won it at the end of the first overtime and had a 5-point lead, and they tied it back up, and then we lost in double overtime. And I tell people that when Jesperson hit the half-court shot, we were all back at the hotel celebrating, and it was kind of the high of highs. And then 2 days later, we were licking our wounds because we thought we were going back to the Sweet 16, and Texas A&M had that incredible come from behind win. So, kind of the low of lows, but that's what's the beautiful thing about sports and about what UNI has done. I mean, you have great moments, you have tough moments, but so exciting to just be part of all of that and get a chance to broadcast that and bring it to Panther Nation wherever people are at listening.
Have you ever lost your voice?
There's been times that I have been so hoarse that I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get through this game, but I've never been able to broadcast a game because I lost my voice. And one thing that I'm really I'm proud of, a 48-year career of doing sports play-by-play and almost 30 years with Division I, University of Northern Iowa. But one thing I'm really most proud of, Tim, is I have done every broadcast that I've ever been assigned to do. If I was supposed to go do that game, I've always been there. I've never been so sick that I couldn't go do the game. And there's times I was a little bit under the weather, but I still did the game. I've had 3 sons get married, and I've never had to miss a game because of a wedding. My middle son said, "Hey, I'm getting married on a Friday night in the fall because I know my dad might not come if I get married on." And I said, "Oh, I'd be there." But no, I mean, it's just, of all the things that have happened in my life, I've been able to do every game that I've been assigned to do for the last 29 years. So that's something that, I've just been blessed to be able to stay healthy and travel and do all the things that I need to do to call the games.
Yeah. And, you spent so much time on the road with football, basketball, baseball through the years. I got to imagine you have a favorite roadside snack in the state of Iowa.
I'm telling you, there's so many great places that I've been able to go to and stop and get something to eat. But I'm kind of old school. If I go through a town and they've got a kind of a home style cafe, the home cooking place, man, a great hot beef sandwich, or even a really good made right. There's the one made right place just as you come across the Iowa border from Missouri, that they make the made rights. You can put olives on it. You can do all these different, man, I just love stopping at places like that. But yeah. And that's the other thing too, is just doing this for you and I the last 29 years. I'm a small town boy from Strawberry Point, Iowa, that didn't go to college, didn't get a degree in anything, and just got lucky to fall in love with broadcasting and become kind of a self-taught play-by-play guy. And growing up in Strawberry Point, I had 4 brothers, 3 sisters. We didn't go on vacations. My dad was a school teacher and a coach. We didn't go to Florida to Disneyland, or we didn't even go to Adventureland. I mean, we just didn't. A vacation for me was to go to Postville, Iowa for a week and stay with my grandpa and grandma. So when I look at all the places that I've been to, the cities, the arenas, the stadiums, the states, the countries, I mean, it's just been incredible, I've been to Hawaii a number of times with basketball and football, went out there and played. I've been to New York, and we've played in a tournament in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and a number of times to Las Vegas. Just really places I never thought I would see, and some states. I mean, we've been to New Hampshire and Montana and Wyoming, and states that I growing up and even as I got older never thought I would probably see. So it's really been an incredible ride that way too. Everything that I've been able to see and take in and do because of the University of Northern Iowa allowing me to be their radio play-by-play guy. When I said at the top, it's been an incredible ride. That all factors into this whole deal for me.
So I got to admit, Gary, before I went to UNI, I played at Iowa Central. And at that time, your son, Todd Rima, was the head coach over at Nyack. And we did not like each other. Iowa Central and Nyack did not like each other very much at that time, to the point where anytime Iowa Central and Nyack were playing, there was a potential that a brawl might break out. Now, I came to find out later, after I leave Iowa Central, I go back to Iowa Central for an alumni game a couple of years later, and I come to find out that Coach Peterson at Iowa Central at that time and Rima had become friends. Your son Todd had become friends. And it just pains me to this day to know that Peterson and Rima are now buddies, because we just hated each other so much back in the day. But I'm sure you sat in the stands now at Kirkwood, Nyack, and watched a lot of those games. What's it like to cheer on your son's teams?
I love it. That's been a real joy of mine too. And and frankly, with what Todd's doing at the collegiate level, coaching, and my two of my other sons are coaching their kids and doing a lot of things like in youth baseball and youth basketball. That's another thing with retirement that I'm really looking forward to. I have 10 grandkids, and to watch them go play ball. My son in Florida coaches his 13-year-old son, who's a heck of a baseball player himself, and to go watch him play, I just really enjoy it. But I love the job that Todd has done. And I remember some of those rivalries between Iowa Central and Nyack when Todd was trying to get that program turned around, and then he did that, and then to get to Kirkwood, and this last year he got him to the Junior College World Series for the second time in 3 years, and I spent the whole week in Enid, Oklahoma with him and the team, and just so just proud of what he's able to do, and he's doing it, Tim, with a lot of former Iowa high school kids, and I love the way he treats his players, and he not only cares about them as a baseball player, but I think he cares more about them as a person and help them. And he sent so many guys to Division I baseball and Division II and NAIA that's it just makes you proud to see him do that, and to see where the love of baseball that I had growing up, as a player, and then later running a team and coaching at different levels, to see that, kind of slide over to him, and him even take it to a whole nother level. I mean, he's a much better coach than I ever was. He's a much better player than I ever was. But to see him have the success that he is, that's really it's just special. I just can't put it any other way. And I'm anxious to be able to get back to Iowa some this spring and see his team play. And I think they'll come down to Florida for a trip, and I'll get over to see him play. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And he played his college baseball at UNI, where he got a small scholarship to first go to UNI baseball, and started as a freshman at second base and set the doubles record as a player while he was there. Played all 4 years as a starter, and then he coached there as an assistant. Turns around Nyack, goes to Kirkwood, and they had been struggling, and he's got that program playing some really good baseball. And this, Tim, that junior college conference that Kirkwood and Iowa Central and DMAC and Nyack and Southeastern are in, that is just some tremendous baseball. It's great baseball. And with Iowa, the only D1 program, great option for kids is to go the JUCO route in Iowa, and to win that conference, to win that regional, to get to the World Series. It's really tough to do out of the state of Iowa. So I just love the job he's doing, and he's got a great coaching staff, and I think they're going to stay really strong for a long, long time.
Yeah, I agree. He's done a really, really great job. He's a really good coach, but it does hurt when he beats my Iowa Central Tritons to go to the College World Series. That one hurt a little bit, even last spring.
Boy, that was an unbelievable game. Iowa Central.
Oh yeah,
it looked like they were going to win it. I think had about 6-2 lead late, and whoever, you could just tell, Tim, and this, whoever wins that game, they were going to be in the driver's seat to win that regional, and then
right.
and for that regional is so strong, they almost always win the next round, the next district round, to get to the World Series. So if you win that game, you're in pretty good shape. And the way Kirkwood pulled it out, it was magical for Kirkwood, but heartbreaking for Iowa Central. I've been around the game long enough, and I've seen enough that that's tough to take as a player and a coach when you're in really great shape to win. But that's baseball. You know what? Baseball is an incredible game. They always say the hardest out to get is the last one, and I've seen that so many times that it is so true. But man, that's some really, really good baseball.
Yeah. Speaking of heartbreak, are you over the Texas A&M loss yet?
Yeah, I am. It's just because you have to move on. You got to look to the next year and the next season. I mean, it's always kind of back there a little bit. We would have gone to California to play in the Sweet 16, and I know after that run that we had in 2010 where we made it to the Sweet 16 and got beat by Michigan State in that round. I've done it for 29 years, and I just know how hard it is just to get to the NCAA tournament, let alone a Sweet 16 appearance. I mean, it's hard to win a first round game, and then to win a second round game, that's just an incredible accomplishment. And we would have went out to California, and we would have played Oklahoma, and I think we could have gave them a great game and maybe got to the Elite Eight, which no UNI basketball team has ever done at the Division I level. So that one's always going to kind of stick in the back of your mind a little bit. But you know what? As a athlete, a coach, a broadcaster, whatever, a fan, you really do have to put it in the past and look ahead and just hope that never happens to you again, because that one hurt for a long time. That one did linger into the next season. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, Gary, thank you so much for joining us on the pod today, man. You've done a great job of promoting UNI sports through the years. Been a great radio voice. It's going to be sad to see it go, but I am happy that you're still playing baseball and you're getting a chance to get on the diamond a little bit more frequently down in Florida, because that also sounds like a lot of fun too.
Yeah, and this year we're in November. I actually, in my negotiations with UNI, I said, if I come back for this season, I got to have 2 weeks off in November to go play in the MSBL World Series in West Palm Beach with my team this year. And they agreed to that. So I'm actually going to miss a football game and maybe 2 or 3 basketball games. They'll have a quality guy fill in, no problem there. But we're going to get a chance to play at the St. Louis Cardinals spring training facility. I think maybe it's at the Houston Astros spring training facility. There's a couple other ones that we play in that are just beautiful facilities that we'll get a chance to play in for 2 weeks in November at the 60 and 65 and older series. So that's going to be another great time. And I'll get to do more of that once this next year's over. But yeah, to play baseball again, it's just so fun, so enjoyable, and looking forward to it. But hey, I appreciate you having me on. I really do. It's fun to talk some UNI Panther sports history with you and some baseball and what I'm going to be doing moving forward. So I really appreciate the time, Tim.
You bet. The pleasure's all ours, and best of luck in retirement in these last couple of seasons here, Gary. Thanks so much.
So that wraps up our episode with Gary Rima. But let's get back to the Cosner Quest, because we had a couple of things happen this week that got me a little bit excited about the Cosner Quest. The first of all is we had a moonlighter out there, listener of the pod, that went to a wedding on Kevin Cosner's ranch this past weekend. And so it was a family friend of Cosner, and they went to a wedding this past weekend on the Cosner ranch. And even though Cosner was not present, I felt like just the fact that a moonlighter was at a wedding at a property that Kevin Cosner owns, somehow the world is working to get us closer to Cosner. So that was a good sign. Another good sign is I actually got an email response from one of my contacts that I've been reaching out to try to get Cosner on the pod. So one of the PR people that works for Kevin actually responded and didn't say no. So I haven't heard a yes yet, but have not heard a no yet. What I did get was, Tim, thank you for the email. I really appreciate your story. Sounds like a really cool podcast and a good idea that you guys have. Let me check to see if this is something that would work out over the next month. So I think that's a strong maybe, right? To get a response, for it not to say no. There was a couple of small compliments baked into the email, so that got me pretty excited. And maybe this could happen. Maybe this could potentially happen. So buckle up. The Cosner Quest is in full gear right now, and we're excited. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I am thrilled right now, and because I was so thrilled, of course, I'm going back into Cosner's IMDb page. Last week we talked about the first movie. I think it was called like Malibu Hot Summer Nights or something. Malibu Nights or something like that was his first movie. Cosner's second movie that he was in 1982, and it's probably a movie that maybe a lot of you guys have seen. This has been a movie that I have never watched, but it's always been on my list of movies that I want to see, because it was also Michael Keaton's coming out party. The movie was Night Shift. Okay, so Night Shift came out in 1982, and in Night Shift, Michael Keaton is the main character. He's playing an attendant at a morgue, okay, and he ends up turning the morgue into a brothel. And apparently it's a rip-roaring affair. It's a really funny movie. Henry Winkler's in it. Costner plays just frat boy number one. So that's Costner's role in the movie, and it'd be fun to go back and watch this movie, not only to see a young Keaton, young Henry Winkler, but also to see like where Costner fits in. Night Shift is a classic. If you're looking for an old-time, early 80s movie to watch this week and a young, hot Kevin Costner, Michael Keaton with a full head of hair, check out Night Shift. But most of all, keep listening to the Costner Quest. I think we're getting a little bit closer. But thank you guys for listening. Really appreciate all of your guys' support for listening, for the feedback that you give us, for buying shirts, sticker packs, all that stuff. Really appreciate it, guys. Thanks as well to the Moonlight Graham Show team, brothers Andy and Neil, who have been helping out in the Costner Quest, the trusted co-host Tommy Griffin, the best in the business, and of course, our producer Brian Samvik, who does all of the audio work behind the scenes, and the best artwork guy in the podcast industry, Brendan Gargano, putting together our artwork each and every week. And to you, the Moonlighters, thank you so much for listening and following along. Have a great week, Moonlighters.
It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. It's a pretty good program, broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. You're loving us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.